Welcome everyone to the Gaming Den. Now this is the 20th episode. We are back for 2018. Yes guys, Console Corner may have stopped, but Gaming Den is still going on. We are your lunchtime podcast, talking all things gaming, talking everything in between gaming, whether it's deals, whether it's just fun, horsing around. It's what gamers do best, and that is what we do. So, with no further ado, I am Shewulf. I am one of your co-hosts of today's show. Joining me, of course, is my other co-host.
Hey everyone, I'm Fox, and we're back. Happy New Year to everyone who's checking us out for the first time. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to this episode. It looks so awesome, and I'm digging all this new things. And we're gonna talk about one of my favorite games from last year. So let's go.
Yeah, I don't know if we're going to keep the whole old Xbox dashboard as the overlay. We might try to play around with the new dashboard to see if we can make some interesting things. You will see
Yes, but
shortly, guys. Let us know.
Let us know if you guys like it. It looks awesome. I think it's cute.
Definitely. And if you guys want the replay of this, you will be able to catch it on Lady Fox Fire's YouTube channel. So, of course, don't worry if you miss it now. You will be able to catch it later, as always.
Yes, it's awesome.
Huge shout out to everybody in the Mixer chat, as this is where we are going to keep the show live now for all you awesome gamers as well. But today, so other than it being a return for 2018, that alone is a what? We also have an amazing special guest joining us. Now, we had talked about some articles and some discussions that had came out previously with this developer, and we stood by and we completely agreed with them on what they had to say because, hey, fan wars, go away. That's it, that's all. But with no further ado, we actually have MadFellowsGames joining us today. How are you?
Hey, it's great to be here.
How are you, Paul?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. So yeah, I'm Paul. I'm the creative director at MadFellows. It sounds really important, but there's only two of us, so I just kind of direct myself. Yeah. So yeah, well, I think first met you guys through that article a while ago, and yeah, thanks for having me on.
Oh, so true. We've talked about what's it called? Aaero and a lot of the stuff that you guys have been doing or talking about or releasing, obviously with the new DLC. We've been talking about it for a while on Gaming Den, and I think this is probably the fourth time that we talk about something related to you guys, so this is awesome to have you on here.
We're
Yeah, I've
super
caught the
happy.
previous episodes. It's yeah, it's great.
We're
Yeah.
definitely super happy to have you joining us. And as always, guys, make sure you guys go give them a follow. Check out the game. The information is actually on the screen below us telling you a little bit about the game. So make sure you guys go check it out. You can find it on Xbox with, of course, the amazing Xbox X enhancements. Now, that alone, were you guys excited when you guys got that?
Yeah, I mean the Xbox One X, I'm really happy with it. I'm a bit of an Xbox fan, as you know, I have been for ages, and yeah, I did manage to get a One X on release day. My girlfriend actually went and picked it up for me at midnight, which I'm very grateful for. Um, but yeah,
Awesome.
it's been amazing, and we always wanted to get the like Aero enhanced for that, and yeah, to see the extra resolution on the console and yeah, the frame rate stay solid is amazing. We're really happy with it.
Yeah, it's really cool.
That is definitely awesome. Now, as you guys can see in the video beside us, this is actually Fox's gameplay of the new DLC. I believe she streamed it a couple days ago.
Yeah, a couple nights ago.
So there you guys go. That way you guys can actually see this game live. Well,
Yes,
technically
that's the
live.
new tracks.
Technically live. We're live. So technically it's
How
live.
did you find it? Did you find it a big step up in difficulty? I'm hearing that it's a
Yeah.
bit more difficult than the main game.
Yeah, it's a bit challenging, yes. I was like, holy crap, especially the zigzags in certain spots. A lot of loop-de-loops, so yeah, I just love the songs though, so that's like, you power through it because you want to listen to the whole thing all the way through. But it is a little bit challenging, yes. I
I
agree with
guess
this.
it's all drum and bass, so it's all kind of really fast paced. So
Yeah.
you get so used to it when you're making the songs that it's hard to like by the time you put the ribbons down and made the level, it's hard to imagine how it's going to go across.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm seeing people are saying it's a bit challenging, which I guess is good.
I thought the base
Yeah,
game was challenging to begin with.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This is true.
that was
But-
strangely we did
What-
tone it right down before release, because when we've been making it for about 2 years, and you sort of play it and then you go, oh, it's not going to be challenging enough, so you kind of keep adding bits in. And we did some play testing a few months before release, and it was just destroying people. So I had to go and sort of tone it down, and I kept thinking, oh, I've toned it down too much, and apparently not. Apparently it's still. I've seen a lot of streamers nearly throw their controller through things. So
It
Oh, wow.
is
Well, it
definitely
depends
a
on-
rage type game, that's for sure.
Yeah.
It's made for some interesting streams. Yeah.
Yeah, especially if they're playing on even harder difficulties. I'm just playing on normal, and as you can see in the video from the beginning of that track, I just started struggling, but eventually I got the hang of it again. So it's
That's the
overall
amazing thing
enjoyable.
to see, is to see people that to sort of watch them grasp it as they play it. It's really nice to watch. I mean, it's the opposite when you see people struggling with it. Like there's been a few streams where people have had a really bad time of it. I kind of want to hide under my desk, but they seem to carry on playing it though. I mean, it seems to be addictive enough that people carry on until they do it, which we're really happy about.
It's the music.
Oh, yeah.
I swear.
Yes.
The music is like, I am horrible when it comes to raging on games like these, but it's the music that constantly keeps having me go back. And then, of course, it's that whole factor of when you go, you're like, no, I know I can do better. And then, of course, you want to try to do, and then you're like, you end up doing a little bit worse. And then you're like, no. And then that's where the rage starts, because you know you can, like, it drives me crazy, which actually comes to one of my questions that I have for you.
Nice.
Has anybody that you know of actually completed Aaero 100%, not missed a single beat?
Yeah. Not there's no kind of 100% ribbon accuracy or anything like that. But as far as getting all the trophies go and that sort of thing, it's strange. Like it's just released in Japan on PS Plus, so there's a lot of Japanese players, and they're kind of a couple of days in, and some are saying it's really frustrating, but they're loving it, so they're carrying on. But other people are posting pictures of their platinum trophies, so they've kind of 100%ed
Nice.
it already.
Very
But,
cool.
yeah, I think that it's the same usual suspects at the top of most of the leaderboards, and we see them a lot in the Discord channel, kind of battling it out and pretending they're okay when someone else takes their score, but actually you can see they're raging.
Yeah, and they get on that night and they try to beat the score, I bet.
Yeah.
That's cool.
All right, so
Yeah, I do like that aspect, by the way. Like when you go into each song, the fact that the leaderboard is right there on the right, it is very challenging because it makes you want to be better than the last time that you played it, or you can battle it out with your friends. I know a couple people that were like saying, "Oh, I beat you in this song," or my score is higher and stuff like that. So actually, like, it's pretty cool.
yeah, someone in the chat actually says that the real part that keeps you coming back is if you have a friend or two on that leaderboard.
Yep, this is true.
It's that competitiveness. You have to beat them. Beat them good.
Yeah, you can't like see someone you know on there and just accept that your place is below them, I guess.
Yeah,
It's
this is
human
true.
nature.
A few streamers have known other streamers that have played it, or someone will introduce someone else to it, and the person that introduced it will be on the leaderboard, so they'll have to beat the person that told them about it, and yeah, it's super fun to watch.
Oh, wow. So,
This is true.
I have another question for you. What inspired you to become a developer?
I've developed games since about 2001, something like that, and I mean, I'm from the kind of era as a child of playing Spectrum and then a Master System and that sort of thing. I've always been completely obsessed by games. I think, I don't know how old I was, really young, and one of my next door neighbours had an Atari 2600, and since then, I've just been obsessive about. I've always played games all through my life. I mean, I've been in bands, and I was a tattooist for a while and that sort of thing. But through it all, I've always played video games. But I didn't think that, like, actually making the game seemed way out of reach. It seemed like something that I wasn't kind of cut out to do, because I didn't have a PC or a computer of any kind until just before I got into like doing it for a living. And yeah, it just kind of built up. Like, I think if I'd have known how much I had to learn and how difficult it would have been, I would have not been so sort of blasé about trying to get into it. But it's, yeah, I just got a computer and I wanted to do the art side of it. So I found out, I mean, give you an idea of how green I was. I didn't know who to talk to at the time, didn't know who to ask what to do. So I literally phoned one of the video game magazines and said, all right, guys, how do I get into making games? And they're like, what, you want to write for us? I'm like, no, I want to make games. And they were all a bit confused, like you would be. And they told me about 3D Studio Max. I'm
Nice.
like, all right, cool. I'll go and find that. So I went and found that and went to Waterstones and bought a book. And just went through a book like a school course sort of thing. Yeah, and just went through and started applying for jobs, and they said, "It's ridiculous, you don't know enough about it." So I'd go and learn a bit more. And every time you get sort of knocked back, you say, "Well, what would I need? What would have had to have been different for you to hire me?" And you just keep going back and doing that. And eventually, Codemasters took me on.
Oh wow.
Wow.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was it. I was blown away. That they've got such a good interview process. It was like a 4-hour long interview,
Oh, jeez.
but they get you to draw things, and then I remember distinctly this quiz they gave me. And you know, if you go to a job interview, you like get a quiz. I've been for a job at a record shop a little while before. They were asking me what was top of the charts and things, and it was a horrible experience. I had no idea. And but this, it was like a picture of the Konami logo, and it was like, whose logo is this? And you know, what games consoles this? And it was like something you'd do for fun, and it was great. It just rattled through that. And yeah, then you had to sort of draw things from these packages of reference images, and I just enjoyed the whole thing. It felt like all the stuff I've been doing that people were telling me I was wasting my time doing, it was suddenly paying off. Someone was asking me questions that I wanted to answer.
Nice.
So from there on, I worked at Codemasters for a few years, sort of Colin McRae Rally and Dirt and Race Driver. And then some guys started Freestyle Games, and I went and worked for them. And yeah, then after a while, we just thought we'd had all these ideas, and we'd kind of stand around saying, "Oh, we don't think they should have done this. We think they should have done that." And it just came to a point where we decided that it was time to actually go out there and work out whether we could do it on our own or not.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was a lot harder than we thought it'd be, but yeah, we thought we'd have this game done in a year, and it took 2.
Oh,
But yeah,
nice.
we've learned a lot, and it's been fun.
Oh wow. Wow, it's so interesting to listen that you like started right from the bottom, like all the way until like you reached out to a magazine because you didn't know where to start. It's like really interesting to see like how far you've come and how small like it was to like get to where you are now. And you basically started like not knowing what to
They
do
didn't
basically
really
at
have,
all.
like I've gone and done a few sort of talks and things at places that do courses for video game development, and there just wasn't anything like that at the time.
Yeah.
It was just at that phase where big teams were coming in. A few years before that, it was just I mean, Codemasters is on a farm. It's like a farm that's converted, that's slowly become this huge kind of development, like set of development studios. But that was just a couple of brothers originally that coded out of their bedroom, and it was about the time that it was sort of moving into having big teams.
Yeah.
But yeah, it
Nice.
seems like now I can't wait for the next kind of generation of games to come out, because there's so much cool opportunities for people to get into games, and everyone, you know, it was weird to play games before. It was, you know, kind of, you couldn't admit you played video games. It was a bit embarrassing.
Yeah.
But now everyone plays them. I can't wait to see what the next lot of developers are going to do.
Oh yeah, it's definitely one of the top like things entertainment wise, and so much goes into it production wise from the big AAA games to regular smaller indies. So there is so much to do, and I think you're right. Everybody plays in some way or another, so it's
It's
actually
so
pretty
cool.
interesting.
And
Yeah,
yes,
it's pretty
people
interesting story.
who are listening, Candy Crusher does still count as game. You can play it, you enjoy it, it is still a game. Just letting people know. But,
So I have a couple questions about the music and stuff like that because I'm really interested in like how did you guys choose the music for the game or for the DLC? Like where did that, originated from?
um, I produce music myself, and the original plan, we made a little mobile game before we made Aaero. It was just like a little tester game. It's not actually on the market anymore, but Aaero kind of grew out of that, and the way we chose the music. Originally, like I said, I was going to make it myself, but I kind of
Mhm.
underestimated the sheer amount of other work that would need to be done. So while we were designing, instead of keep writing different tunes to see what would fit, we just started putting our own sort of things that we listen to ourselves, like Noisier and that sort of stuff, and putting it in to see how it'd work. And then the idea was we'd then go and make some music that was a bit like that. But once
Oh,
you've
okay.
put things like Noisier in there, it's hard to then sort of take that back out, because so we thought we'll just get hold of Noisier's management and see what they say. And they were really, really cool. When I said to them, you know, you're interested in having more in music in video games, they asked if we'd heard of them because of DJ Hero. And I was like, yeah, that's exactly why. And he said, well, that's exactly why we want to be in more video games.
Nice.
So it was really cool. They were great guys. And then once you've got Noisier in there, you can sort of go to other things and say, do you want to be in this little indie game? And they're like, no, we've heard that too many times. You've got Noisier in there. And they sort of, oh, okay. And once we had a
Nice.
prototype to show people, it was fairly easy going. Like the labels we got KEB and Flux Pavilion from actually came to us, and
Oh, really?
they said, oh, we've seen what you're doing. Do you want some of our music in your game? And we were like, yeah, but there's no way we could afford it. It's just, you know, it's way out of our budget, so it's not even worth considering. And they said, well, can we come and meet you and we'll talk about it? And I genuinely thought it was just going to be a big waste of time, where they asked us for sort of £20,000 for each track. And
Oof.
they sat with us and they looked through our budget, what there was of it, and they basically cut us a deal so that we could have that music in the game. And yeah, we were still blown away that actually happened. Remember making some of the Flux Pavilion tracks, because Bass Cannon, I mean, it polarizes people. Some people love it, other people can't stand it, but it was perfect for
Yeah.
the introducing people to the ribbons. And we'd
Yes.
used it for the tutorial, and it just, it was so easy going, and it was such a great sort of visual for it. The sound is, it couldn't be any more in your face. It's just a screeching sound, exactly what we needed to introduce the ribbons. So
Yeah.
we were over the moon to get that.
well, that's really cool.
Oh,
Like, when it comes
yeah.
to music, a lot of people kind of wonder the whole copyright aspect of it because,
Mhm.
you know, we've seen Xbox themselves actually have issues with, you know, backwards compatibility games because of music copyrighted and everything else like that. So it's awesome that they wanted, like, they were willing to work with you. Plus, sometimes I wonder if companies like that actually take it into thought that, hey, you know, our game still goes out to thousands and thousands of people, which means that music is still being promoted one way or another. Whether
That's
it's
true.
Yeah.
I think much more with like the artists we're working with, people like Monster Cat, they are so switched on to the way people listen to music now.
Mhm.
I mean, even Noisier, when we said where do you want us to point people to buy the music? Do you want them to buy it from iTunes, or, you know, where should we point people that want the tracks? And they said, well, to Spotify, because they get more out of Spotify than they do out of selling tracks. And and then Monster Cat have got their mixer channel.
Yes.
And they're so, like, they've got their finger right on the pulse of how people are listening to music now. And so working with them, compared to working with, say, if we went for rock music and we were going for the big labels, and they're very kind of set in their ways, and it'd be much harder to get that sort of music in there.
Yeah. I definitely think you guys went with the right way. I love the music in this game. It's catchy. It makes you enjoy playing. You don't even really sit and think about the fact that you're, like, when you do mess up, because you're just trying to listen to that music so clearly that you're doing your best to keep up with it.
Yeah, I think that's why we wanted to put the chill out mode in there, so people could, you know, if they just wanted to play through the tracks and hear the whole track, then rather than get kicked out after 3 hits.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. So one of my questions is, what was the actual inspiration of Aaero, like the game itself? What made you guys decide to be like, this is exactly the game we want to build, these are the designs we want to do? Like, what was that inspiration that actually brought Aaero to life?
Originally, again, it kind of developed out of a mobile game, and the mobile game was very involved in tapping in time. And our first thing was, we still think there's a market out there for music games, but it's obviously a lot more niche than it was with Guitar Hero and those sort of times. So we knew that we didn't want to use plastic instruments and peripherals like that. Everyone's cupboards and attics are stocked full of them. So we didn't want to do that. So we started looking at the mechanics of a mobile device and what would work well with that, and it was swiping and tapping. And similarly, when we came to developing for console, we just picked up an Xbox controller and said, okay, what does this do best? And we sort of played around with it, and I'd literally sit with a controller in my hands, listen to music, and think what would be compelling to do with that controller. You know, how you'd move it and what you'd do to kind of play along with the music. And we thought that kind of flying a spaceship is about it's like the standard go-to thing for using a controller. So rather than try and turn a controller into an instrument, we wanted to use it for what it was best for, and then kind of fit the music around that. And the other kind of deciding factor was music games where you have to tap in time. They kind of polarize people as well. Some people, as soon as they know that you have to follow beats and tap in time, some people are all over it and they'll finish it instantly. Others will just go, oh, I'm not into this sort of thing, and leave it. So we wanted to focus on, yeah, exactly. So we wanted to focus on, like, the analog side of it, because people seem to be able to, regardless of whether they're into sort of rigidly tapping in time, they can always hum a vocal or you know, follow the kind of analog things of the music. So we looked at mapping that to the thumbsticks. And I mean, like, Res is mentioned every other time someone mentions Aaero, someone mentions Res, and I'm a huge Res fan, and it had a massive influence on the shooting in Aaero.
Yeah.
But the actual game that it's closest to, from a design point of view at least, is called Guitaru Man, which is it's quite old now. It's but it's amazing, and the similarity is on the thumbsticks. You kind of swing the thumbsticks round to play guitar in that. You should check that game out. It's amazing. But it doesn't look like Aaero, and it doesn't, you know, you don't fly into the screen or anything, but it's that analog side of the music rather than sort of rigidly tapping in time. And then Aaero kind of just grew out of that. We started with that and then just worked outwards from there.
That's really interesting. It's
Yeah, really awesome.
it's always great to hear where like games come from, especially being gamers ourselves. We sit and play these for hours upon hours, and I know me personally, it always crosses my mind like what inspired these kind of games. So that's awesome to hear.
It's very different with an indie studio to a big team. You get to try more. Like in a big team, if you have an idea, you've then got to pitch it to everybody, do a big design document on it, and then you've got to bring people around to your idea. Whereas the reason me and Dan work so well together is our jobs don't cross over at all. He doesn't get involved in how anything looks, other than from a programming side. He doesn't care how on anything to do with the design, and I don't care about the programming. We just, as long as each side works, we're fine. So we don't cross over. So instead of having a big kind of design meeting, going backwards and forwards and prototyping things, I'd just look up from my computer and go, Dan, I'm going to do this, and he'd go, yeah, it sounds cool. And you just kind of get on with it, and you get a lot more done with less kind of red tape, and it doesn't seem to get watered down as much either. So you get to sort of do more try things out that you probably wouldn't, that would get kind of taken out by committee over time in a big team.
Definitely. So Fox, do you want to ask another question?
Oh yeah, definitely. Is there another genre of games you'd like to try other than rhythm based?
I've always I've worked on racing games and music games like Guitar Hero and DJ Hero and that sort of thing, but I've never had the opportunity to work on something really atmospheric and kind of gothic. I used to play a lot of Soul Reaver, and I really
love
love
that.
Limbo and Inside and anything a bit dark. And I'd love to do sound design on something like Inside or Limbo or something like that.
Inside was a really good game.
It was amazing.
I played a little bit of Limbo. Not a whole lot, but I did play.
It's so cool. It's just that it has its art's amazing, but it's all just monochrome. You can't see anything on the floor, but you get the textures from the sound when he's walking. And if he goes into a cave,
yeah.
you get the sense of space and everything just from the sound design. And to have the opportunity to do something like that would be brilliant.
Oh wow. So here's another question for you then. Was there any other idea of a game that you wish you could have made?
I mean, with just the two of us, like we're kind of lucky in as much as.
Well, I mean, if you have a completely unlimited budget and they were like, all right, go at it.
I don't know. I think we would have just still made Aaero, but with more songs and the Prodigy in it and that sort of thing.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we so nearly got them. So nearly. We won't.
Yeah,
give
me
up.
and Timidos were talking about that.
Yeah, one day. Yeah, it was a close one. We thought we celebrated that a couple of times and then it fell through. But yeah, hopefully a DLC pack one day.
Ooh.
That's not confirmation. That's if that's if something miraculous happens and we earn a fortune enough to pay them for it. But
yeah, that's my own internal hype. Not confirmed, people. Not confirmed.
Not confirmed. Yeah, so I mean, with unlimited budget, that's what we would have done.
Nice.
Yeah, the same sort of thing. But I mean, the Aaero's kind of its visual style and the amount of songs and all of that. There's always a million ideas that we'd like to get in there, but it's just trying to bring that scope back in. I think we would have done Aaero, but with all of the crazy ideas that we had.
Oh wow.
That is
So
really
since
awesome.
you mentioned Prodigy, is there this kind of leads to another question of mine. If you could get any artist, song, or like in the game or for a future DLC, who would it be?
Well,
Or what would it be?
We got for the soundtrack. I mean, we tested out a lot of music first, and we chose the tracks we wanted. There was probably about 20 of them, and we got 15 of the ones we wanted. The ones we didn't get were Prodigy and Pendulum.
Oh, okay.
We in the end, Pendulum was in there right until the last minute, and it was the Abstract track that we bought in when we found that, and I'm glad we did in the end, because that track, it's the one on the spider level. So happy with that now. We'd kind of wanted it originally, but it had some crazy samples in it that wouldn't really fit with the style of the game. If you get a chance, check that the unedited one out on YouTube, because it's a brilliant track. But we'd kind of written it off because it'd take too much to edit it into something we'd use. But in the end, that's what we did do. We edited it all down and took out the bits that didn't kind of feel right. And yeah, we're happy with it now. But yeah, I think Pendulum and Prodigy were two that have always kind of hung about and been suggested by people, and we think they'd work really well, but we haven't managed to get them yet.
Oh, okay. Nice. I'm looking forward to like seeing if you guys do more with the game or add in future content or whatnot, or do future games that are similar. So I'm really looking forward to that.
I mean, we'd like to support it as long as there's people there that want to play it. We'll keep supporting it. It's quite a niche genre as well, and I think there have been quite a few people that don't normally play music games or that sort of game, that if you sit them down and make them play it, they quite enjoy it. But it's still quite a niche thing. But as long as there's enough people to warrant us making new stuff, we'll keep supporting it.
Yeah, which is true, because a lot of people don't go out there looking for those type of games. When they're looking in the store, they're just playing whatever their friends are playing, which is awesome. And why we like talking about this game, we've been talking about it for a while, is because we want a lot of people to try it. And I tell all my friends about it. So it's just really fun, and it has awesome music. So yeah.
I think that's one of the best.
Word of mouth.
One of the best things that we've found that we didn't expect was the amount of really amazing people we've met that just have kind of jumped on board and helped us out getting the name out there. And yeah, it's been worth it for that alone. There's just had some great times with kind of influencers and journalists, and some people have really jumped on board with it. And it's great when you've put your sort of heart and soul into something and someone gets it, and then they'll email you just to tell you that they get it, which is it's made it worthwhile. It's been really cool.
That is actually
awesome.
really awesome, especially like someone actually pointed this out in the chat earlier. It's kind of more or less, now you're odd if you don't play video games. So
yeah, absolutely.
So the social media aspect of video games and all that kind of stuff it's huge. So, once a couple gamers start talking about it, then more start talking about it, and it starts, promoting it and getting it out there. And that's one of the best things, because half the time a lot of people don't even actually realize some of these indie titles that are out there, unless they have like big backing. Like for instance, Ori and the Blind Forest, how that game has Xbox directly backing that game, so a lot of people know of that. But there's a lot of like smaller titles that don't actually get as known. Like for instance, one that's pretty popular, well, I like it, it's Fee. And not a lot of people even knew about this game, but yet it's been talked about for the past 2 years, and now it's actually on pre-order. So
sorry, what game was that?
It's Fee. It's by the developers. I'm gonna get hit for this one because they're like, they
did Zombie Vikings, right?
Yes, it's like Zonic Games or something, or Zoink Games.
Oh yeah,
they did like Zombie Vikings, and they did
Stick It to the Man.
Yes, that's their other game.
That was cool. I really like that. It's really creative.
But those are a couple more games that they don't get as much recognition as I believe indie titles should, because of the fact that indie developers take those risks. They go out and beyond instead of trying to play it safe when it comes to a video game. So you never know what to actually expect in these style of games where, like, for instance, Halo or Forza or, you know, even Gears themselves, you still have some sense of what to expect because they stay to the same cutout of each game because they know it's safe. They know that's what's going to get them what they are. Like, look at Halo. They actually tried to kind of step away and they got crushed because of the fact, you know, they brought lock in. They did the back and forth thing, and not a lot of people like that. So
In Halo 2, the sort of Covenant side of it.
Oh yeah, you played as both sides. Yep, that too.
Yeah, people didn't like that, did they?
no, and then they brought it
They
back
went down
again.
quite badly. Yeah, I think that sums it up. Is it's if you're putting tens of millions into something, you can't really take those sort of risks. You have to kind of edge little bits in and see how it goes and see how it goes with other things. And I mean, it's when video games production is as expensive as it is, your studio lives or dies off one game. We've seen so many studios that have been around for years. Now that the price of development has gone up and the standards have gone up, they have one game that isn't bad at all, but, you know, comes out at the same time as something else, or isn't, you know, the multiplayer flavor of the month at the time, and then they're shut down. It's such a risk.
Yeah, and I think that's another awesome thing that indie they do. They look outside the box and they want to be different. They want to stand out. And then next thing you know, you have the streamers playing your game, enjoying it, and then a lot of people watch that and they enjoy the game or watching the game, and then they go pick it up. So the word of mouth after that, and then you have people talking about your game here and there in different articles. So I just think it's interesting when you stand out like that compared to, like Shewulf was saying, regular AAA games that they have the big budget and they're gonna keep it simple and I guess to what people are already used to regarding that game.
Yeah,
So
I think it's a nice kind of time for games. I mean, there's always the problems that, you know, at the moment, I guess it's loot boxes and that sort of thing. But I think there's a really good range of there's lots of indie games. There's lots of cool indie games if you want to go and try something different. And the production values on the big games, your Destinies and your Call of Duty, is now so high that they're amazing as well. It's you kind of got the whole spectrum of games at the moment.
Yeah, you do. You
there's
definitely
something
get
out there for everyone.
Yeah, the whole variety of different genres, no matter what you play, no matter what. So, I have a question for you, and it's kind of doesn't really relate to the game, but more or less to yourself. Do you remember the very first video game you played?
Yes, I played. I think they were called. I don't know whether it's an Intellivision, but it was that sort of thing. Had little paddles on it that you turned. They're like circular paddles, and you had
Oh my God,
tennis
I
game,
think
the
that was.
typical Pong tennis game. I played one of those at a friend's house, and then like I say the guy that lived next door to me, he had a 2600, and that blew me away. That utterly blew me away. We'd play. Have you seen the game Combat? I mean, I've got a 2600 here still because I was so jealous of him as a kid that as soon as I had a bit of money, it was only a few years ago, I bought a 2600. So I've got one here. It's the wooden panelled one with the toggle switches on it and things.
Wow.
But your Combat is just two blocks fighting against each other. Sometimes they're tanks, sometimes they're planes. But we put hours into it, and there was adventure, which you played as a cube walking a square walking around squares, but it was amazing. And yeah, it would have been Pong, I think, or something around that time.
Nice, awesome. All right, Fox, you got anything else?
Wow, I was trying to remember the Atari stuff. I think I played Pong once.
What was the first game you guys played?
I think it was Mario. Like one of the very first Marios.
Was it on the regular Nintendo?
Yeah.
Nice.
Cool.
My first one, even though like I tried Atari and stuff like that, my first one was Duck Hunt.
Oh my God, I remember those.
No,
Oh no, Duck Hunt was that the
on
NES
the
one?
NES. Yeah, on the
Yeah,
NES.
yeah, with the dog that lifts the duck up.
Yeah, and it was just fun. I didn't know like what video games were, what I was doing. I just knew that I was having fun, right, with my brothers. I didn't really get into the whole, oh my God, I'm playing a video game. Let me see more. This is awesome until I got to the Genesis or the Master System. Like that's when I was like, oh my God, I want more of this. But yeah, my first experience was with a gun, playing Duck Hunt.
Yeah.
That is awesome. I
Yeah.
remember like when the computers first actually like became a thing and started getting games. Anybody remember that Snake game where you literally just constantly kept going and you had to like keep building up, like you had to keep making or eating the squares, but you couldn't touch
Yeah, it was
yourself
on
as soon as
Nokia
you.
phones as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah, it was on your phones too. Once the phones got
Yeah.
bigger, but it first started on computer. I remember playing that and like that's was like the coolest thing ever playing on PC was this Snake game, and I'm like, wow. Thinking back now, it's so different.
It is. I
Drum
mean,
ass if it's centipede.
Yes.
people have got this thing. I see it a lot from, like my friends that are developers. A lot of them still swear that these old games were better than the things that come out now. They go, oh, you know, this was better than Destiny, and when you actually look at it, they so weren't. I think it's just how your expectations back then. I remember seeing Sega Rally, and it had reflections in the back window that were just, I think they were just like white bits of light that went across the window, but that blew me away. And now you've got things like Forza, and people are so used to it, and
Yeah.
you know the expectations are through the roof. But yeah, I think it's tough to go back to most old games.
I could go to Sonic. I could go back to
I
Sonic
was
any
about
day.
to say Sonic. Yeah, Sonic. That's still the best one. Was the Genesis Mega Drive one?
Yeah, I still get teased about it, but you know what? I
Oh
don't
my
care. Like
god. You guys
that
are
was when I fell in
nerds.
love.
I'm leaving now.
Wait,
Goodbye.
no, but
I'm out.
listen. No, but like that's when I fell in love with gaming, so I could always go back to that. That's my old favorite ever. But
When I
of course,
first,
I love the way that games have developed ever since then. So I can see both sides, you know.
yeah,
That is true.
I think Sonic the Hedgehog on the Mega Drive, that I couldn't sleep after I played that as a kid. Went around a friend's house and played that, and sort of had a sleep over there, and I just couldn't turn my brain off after it. It was just like overload. But
He's like,
yeah,
I want more. That was
yeah,
fun.
totally.
Yeah, I know the feeling. Let's see. We got some other questions. Okay. How cool was it to have the community like chime in when it came to picking the ship names? And would you do that in the future for Arrow or for any other future game?
Absolutely. I mean, the the more people that, I mean, people feel really strongly about this game now, and that's amazing to us. So I know it sounds a bit cliched, but I kind of feel like it's anyone that's into it has kind of got a chance to. We try and make ourselves as accessible as possible. I try and answer pretty much every tweet I get.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a Discord channel now, which is brilliant, and we're always listening to people. And if anyone's got any ideas or thoughts, and we're always really happy to hear them. So yeah, I mean, getting the community to name the ships was brilliant. It went really well, and I think it wasn't a set of three from one person. We kind of chose different different people for each ship,
Awesome.
which has kind of given it a still connected, but also they've got like individual names. They're not sort of a set of three.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was cool. It was great to get such a good response from it.
Well, with that still, so okay, we're still sticking on that kind of form. Was there any names that you actually really liked, but obviously didn't get picked?
Yeah, there was. Because some names seem to fit some ships particularly, and I can't remember which one it was. The Sol, I think, had
Yeah.
a lot of cool names, and we sort of looked at spreading those out across different ships. But yeah, I can't remember what they were now. There was some really clever ones that were in sets of 3. Um, Someone come up with ideas. I forget who it was now. Based on the amount of engine trails that were on the back, it was like harmony if there was 2, and it was all based on kind of musical terms,
Oh, okay.
based on how many trails there were on the ship,
That's cool.
which was super clever.
That is
That's very like
actually really
specific.
cool.
Yeah, it's just cool. But I mean, throwing things like that open to everybody, it's great to have that big pool of ideas to use.
Yeah, I think it's awesome when people involve the community and they come up with ideas together or they chime in on something. I think that's awesome. And the fact that you had showed everybody the ships beforehand, I think is really cool. You got everybody hyped up to see like what you had next, like
I
the
built a
music
couple
and
of them
everything.
on stream. There was only a couple of people in there, but I remember sitting there building them and thinking I might stream this just to see if anyone's interested. But yeah, a couple of them were built while people were in chat, kind of giving me ideas, and
Oh,
yeah,
what? That's even better.
good fun. I'd like to do that again, actually.
Now I'm jealous because I missed that. Was
Yeah,
that on
you missed
Mixer?
it.
Like, what was that on? Mixer or YouTube?
Probably
Or...
Twitch. I'm very new to streaming and that sort of thing.
Mixer. Go to Mixer.
Oh my god.
Hey, that low latency works perfectly, especially if you're creating ships and you want people
Yeah, you
talking
get
to you.
faster.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
you
do.
get faster response from the chat. This is true.
Yeah.
But
But yeah,
that's
that's
great
pretty cool.
though. I'm actually really sad I missed that. We'll have to definitely catch the next time you do it, because that kind of stuff really intrigues me, especially, I enjoy doing graphics and all that kind of stuff. So watching people create things like that, it's absolutely amazing, especially the hard work and the dedication that goes into it is just absolutely outstanding.
Oh yeah, the design and everything. Really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, I love doing 3D stuff. I'm not as like 2D things. I know a lot of people feel like it's a bit of a compromise to be using a computer rather than like a pencil and some paper, but I always gotten better with a computer thing. I tend to like if I'm making a ship, I'll get each part of it, stretch it right out until it's too long, push it right back until it's not enough, and then I kind of find that middle ground. And I like that constant sort of tweaking things and moving things around. I can't, then people that really annoying people that can just grab a pencil and sketch something brilliant in seconds.
Yes.
Like that. So a computer, actually, I prefer doing things in Photoshop and Studio Max than I do on paper.
Oh wow. My husband GKB, he actually went to school for 3D graphic design. So I bet you he knows exactly how you feel.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it is.
I wouldn't know. I'm the kind of person that just doodles on the paper, so I don't know what you guys are talking about.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I like the workflow on it. Like, I always wanted to do comic books and that sort of thing, but trying to draw things in different poses, and I guess I design more than I kind of sketch. But with a computer, you sort of build a character and then you rig it and then you compose it, and that suits me a lot better than kind of redrawing stuff and redoing stuff.
Yeah, that is true. It makes sense.
Huh. I just realized today was Friday.
Of course.
Oh my Lord. I'm behind time here, guys. It's all good though. It's all
At
good.
least she remembered about the show, guys.
I did. I remembered that. I have like schedule wise for that stuff, but
that's awesome.
I forgot it was Friday.
Silly goose.
Yeah.
So I have one more like serious question before I get to the silly question. Do you want to ask anything else, Shewulf?
No, go ahead.
All right. My question is about the self-publishing stuff. Tell us a little bit about that and how important it is for you guys and the team, like, for that to happen.
Well, I think a lot of the advantage of being a small team. I mean, before we left Activision, Dan had been on a small prototyping team, and we'd all been sort of doing little different games and ideas, and we noticed how much extra you get done as a small team. And then there's like the team gets bigger and you need people to manage that team, and then people don't agree, and everyone's productivity. I mean, it's absolutely necessary to have that many people when you're making a huge game. But everyone's productivity, the bigger it gets, the less productivity each person has, because there's more kind of procedures and reporting and scheduling that gets in the way. So we were originally always going to self-publish, and then we'd got the game. It was pretty much done. We did all the porting ourselves and the localization and all of that sort of stuff we had done ourselves. And then this kind of bit of doubt crept in at the last minute, and we thought maybe we're biting off more than we can chew here. Maybe we wouldn't do the game justice if we tried to publish it ourselves. So we did enlist a publisher, but you then have all of the problems creeping back in from the big team. Like, whereas I can make a decision with Dan pretty much instantly. We don't often disagree on things. There's no lag between us doing stuff. If either of us wants to just hit go on something, we'll do it. And then suddenly you've got days, weeks, sometimes months of waiting for someone to respond. Week after week of people saying, oh, this is on our list, this will be done, and then you have to keep sort of going, is this done? Is it done yet? And it kind of completely ruined our workflow, and it became frustrating in a way that we hadn't had since we were in AAA. And I'm not completely against all publishers. I know there's some great publishers out there, but it just wasn't for us. And it became obvious that, I mean, it's quite a niche game, and the only way we could have done this was with a tiny bare bones team. We just about tick over on this game. So there's kind of every day is critical to us, and everything we choose to spend our time on, there's no like extra time. We're kind of always by the skin of our teeth hanging on. And then when you have someone that comes in and takes a chunk of that to delay everything, it just wasn't going to work. So moving to self-publishing was a logistical nightmare. I mean, it appears to be pretty much unheard of for publishers to change with a game released. And Steam and Xbox, they managed to just kind of, I mean, there's a lot of paperwork and there's a lot of sorting out all of your tax sort of things, and especially with different countries, and there's a lot of paperwork, but essentially they just kind of swapped it over. So we were the publishers, and then we got access to all the kind of the back end stuff. But with PlayStation, because it's just unheard of for it to happen. We had to kind of re-release from the start, which means we've got this weird thing going on now where we've got like two versions out on PlayStation, one old one and one new one, and they're not connected in any way. And we thought, and Sony thought, they'd be able to kind of link them together, but that's proven to be more difficult than we thought. But all the platforms have been great to us, supporting us to get through this, because frankly the amount of work that it's been for them as well as us, for such a small game, such as a small team, it's credit to all those platforms for supporting us and letting us actually do it. But it was the only way we were going to be able to carry on releasing for the game. I mean, if you imagine a big publisher, they kind of take their chances on something, and if it doesn't suddenly start rolling in huge amounts of money, they're not going to carry on supporting that and carry on doing things, but they're still going to take a chunk out of it. And it just wasn't a sustainable way to carry on. And there was a risk that kind of changing self-publishing would stall everything and shut us down, but the way we were going, we wouldn't have lasted anyway. So we kind of took the plunge and went for it, and yeah, it's great. I mean, now if we want to do an update, we can do an update. If you know, if we want to give codes out to people, we can give codes out to people. There's no sort of anything that we had to ask the platform before had to go through someone else, and you didn't know when they were going to get round to doing it, or when the other person from Microsoft or Sony was going to reply.
Yeah.
And you just sat here, and it's hard to plan things. It's hard to get the most out of your time. But we've got full control of it now, and it's a lot to deal with. But it does give us the freedom to do things how we do things, and sort of keep it going.
Oh wow, dude! Like just listening to that had me at the edge of my seat, and I'm over here. I'm over here like, wow, you guys had to go through so much, and yet it's for the better, right? So it's easier now, even though it was such a tough process. And it's kind of crazy with the whole PlayStation thing. They couldn't link the games together. That's kind of rough. But does that mean that extra trophies? Is that
yes,
they
it
got
does.
2 games?
Exactly what
Nice.
it does mean. Yeah, Sony were really concerned that people would be livid about it and would like launch a big witch hunt for us. But our kind of experience of the people that have been playing the game and would likely go back to it has been entirely different to that. I mean, it doesn't take too long to finish it anyway, and I think once you've got the ability that if you played through to the end of Master, you could then play through to the end of Master again in one hit. And we feel that the extra trophies and that kind of made up for it. But it was just a call at the end of the day. We could have left the old one there, but it'd never get any DLC in it, it'd never get updated, and that didn't seem fair either. So I think out of everyone losing their saves and their trophies, it felt like if we were going to carry on supporting it, it was better for them to lose that stuff then, but still be able to get the stuff in the future, than it just halt where it was.
Wow, it's crazy. But I'm glad that you guys worked it out and that you have more say now. And you could directly do things. That's way better. Pretty sure that relieves a lot of stress from you guys, especially having to wait for others. That's pretty rough.
It's a lot to learn, but it's, you know, you kind of do it each bit once yourself, and it's a headache doing it, but then you've got it sorted for next time. Whereas if you're always relying on other people, you don't quite know what's involved, and it's kind of in a publisher's best interest to make everything sound way more complicated than it actually is, so that do you know what I mean? So some bits have been like, well, that's way more complicated than I thought it'd be, but a lot of it has been, hang on a minute, that I just clicked a button and that was done. I mean, Steam particularly is, I don't know how they've done it, but Steam is automated all the way through. It handles itself. It promotes the things that it needs to the right people based on what else they've done. It's kind of self-propagating and manages itself, which is amazing. So, you know, when you've been told previously that people have got your game into a sale on Steam, and you're like, wow, that's great. I don't think we could have ever done that, but it turns out you just apply for the sale with a checkbox and then hit apply, and Steam does the rest of it itself. It's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
I do actually have another question then. Because you said you were a really big Xbox gamer, how did it feel when your game actually did release on Xbox?
It's really surreal. It's because you've seen it on the dev kits for a long time before it's actually on there. But my retail kit that I play on all the time, when it actually, because I mean, I'm one of these sort of people. I hit refresh on everything every 5 seconds. I'm always, hitting refresh on Twitter, trying to find out if there's anything new. And actually seeing it appear on Xbox, it's pretty crazy. Like, it's when it's in a list of other things, like the DLC just came out, and I'm scrolling through it, and I'm looking like I normally do for other stuff, and you come across something, and it just stands out because it's so familiar. And it feels odd. And yes, I've seen people play it. I still watch every. I've always got a stream running in the background of someone playing it, and it's amazing to have, because we never really had that on other games. This is the first sort of game I've made that I can actually launch up Mixer or Twitch and watch someone play it. It's such a valuable tool for developers. You can see how people interact with your game directly, and yeah, so being able to fire up the Xbox and then it will come up that one of my friends is playing it and they're streaming it, so you can click on Mixer and go straight in there and watch
That's
it.
awesome.
It's crazy. It's quite surreal.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, that's what I wanted to do. I always wanted to make something that, I mean, that's what we used to do, is all hang around playing games. So I wanted to make the sort of games that we'd hang around and play. And you know, when people actually do play it, it's really, and they're not just playing it because, you know, they should do because it's the game you made. If actually people are choosing to play it and enjoying it, it's amazing.
That I bet, especially knowing that, you know, it's yours and Dan's hard work that went into this, you know, your time, your dedication, and you get to see people like enjoying it, people actually smiling while they're playing it, or even people raging. Even just to see people raging, I'm sure is still even a great sensation.
I think it's if I ever see a stream and they're in the first few tracks and they haven't done like the worm level, I always love watching people when they first get to that worm level. It seems like people really don't expect it. I'm so used to it being there, and it took, I mean, the boss levels took so much longer than the other levels. That when, you know, the worm comes out the sand and they get eaten by it's amazing to see people's reaction to that, and it's what I'd kind of hoped that reaction would be. But you have these like moments of like massive doubt, like before EGX 2015 when we first showed it, me and Dan were just stood there going, I don't even know what we've made anymore. I'm so familiar with it that I've got no idea how people are going to take it, and suddenly it's like terrifying. But then people come along, they start playing it, start enjoying it, and it's so hard to have a sense of what your own game is and how it's going to be perceived. But yeah, to see people enjoying it it's amazing. It's
Now that you mentioned the worm level, I'm like, oh, I wish I would have streamed it the first time I got it, because my reaction was like, whoa, what the heck is this? And I was just enjoying it.
Like when we were playtesting with there's a college just down the road that's got a game production course, and they kindly let us go in there and load the game up and get some of their students to play it. Because like games testing and feedback it's so costly that we wouldn't have been able to do it otherwise. But they were great, and they all had headphones on, and it was the first time anyone else had played the worm level, and we were sort of waiting to see what people's responses would be. And this one girl jumped backwards out of her seat, stood up, and screamed, "You shouldn't be at this worm!" And I was like, "That's cool. That's got a reaction. I'm happy with it. It's been good."
That's awesome.
That is.
I'm glad. Like everything that you're saying, I'm just like, yeah, that sounds pretty cool. I would be feeling really happy if I had a game out there and I see people playing it in my friends list or within the store, because like in the store I can see like how many people have played it or reviewed it or anything like that. So that's also pretty cool. And then obviously the streamers and everything. So it's pretty amazing.
That is. That's absolutely amazing. I know Fox had an off question to ask you, so.
Okay. So my goofy question has nothing to do with the game. But you, as a gamer, do you still play Destiny? And if so, what do you think of all the bad press and the Eververse controversy that's been going on with Destiny?
It's do you remember when people boycotted, I think it was Modern Warfare 2, because it didn't have dedicated servers? And then there's that meme that you always see, and it's got the list of gamers, and the group's called something like Boycott Modern Warfare, and like 60% of them are playing Modern Warfare. I kind of feel like that, like I've, particularly having worked for Activision and and come out a bit sort of disillusioned by them. Bungie was my favourite developer. I loved those guys, and I loved how they did all their community stuff, and I loved how they kind of trolled journalists by putting things on boards in the studio that were nothing to do with anything, and just liked how they did things. And the day I was working at Activision, when I heard that they were kind of joining up with Bungie, and it was terrifying. I didn't know what that had looked like, and then you start hearing from the team on the first Destiny that they'd been kind of tearing it apart, and it did kind of feel like Halo, but with Candy Crush style money extraction techniques, which was a bit disappointing. But I still played the first one to death.
Oh yeah.
I kind of left all the DLC because it was too expensive. But then when the Taken King came out, and it had all the Dark Below and the House of Wolves all bundled into it, and I got my money's worth out of it. I had hundreds of hours out of that. And this time, yeah, it is from a kind of negative point of view. The Eververse could be seen as a bit morally, I don't know. But I suppose on the other hand is that there isn't actually anything in there that's that overpowers people. There's nothing that would give you an edge, I don't think, in multiplayer or anything like that. I think it is all cosmetic stuff.
Right. Actually, I thought the mods that you could add to the gun, I thought that would affect the game heavily, but not really, because they're kind of watered down themselves in a way. So they even said they released some stuff yesterday saying that they got to work on that. So they got to actually make it worth you having a mod. But
yeah,
it's kind of crazy the bad press that they gotten. And I do remember when the game came out, you were playing it and taking pictures and sharing it on Twitter and talking a lot with the community regarding that game. And I was like, oh wow, that's pretty cool, because well, you're a gamer at heart, and even though you have your own game out there, you're still playing other things and enjoying just like playing different style of games with the community. So I thought that was really interesting, like to ask you, like, how are you, if you're still playing it, and what do you think of that?
Yeah, I was still playing Destiny right up until my friend sent me that copy of Call of Duty, which, as I was saying to you guys a while ago, I didn't expect to ever get back into a Call of Duty game, but I'm really loving this one. But
Yes.
yeah, I've been keeping up with Destiny. I would have probably had 3 characters at maximum level, but my son uses the Titan, so I've got my Warlock and my Hunter at full level.
No.
I enjoyed all the Dawning stuff. I think it was really nice. I do get excited if you go in and sort of, the Dawning started and it's snowing, and I think it's just cool. I like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I totally understand the concerns people have. I think particularly the first time, it was unusual for someone to strip so much out of a game and then sell it back at the price of, a full game again. But I think after the first one, I realised that I did get my hours. I got good value for money out of it eventually. And now I kind of just do default to Destiny. If I'm not sure what I want to play, I just want to sit down and, play something. Then me and my friends will go into Destiny.
Which is kind of funny, because really you could just kind of wait till like all the DLC and all the game releases, and then just buy it for like the same price.
That is the clever way to do it. That is definitely the way, because all of the work you put in, like I think the level cap at first, it now jumped up 30. It was 305, and that's 335. And you'll grind for weeks to get that 335. But as soon as the next content comes out, everyone will just walk straight through those levels, and it's only the last few you ever have to grind for. So if you can kind of hold off and wait until the last DLC pack, that you get incredible value for money out of it at that point.
Yeah, especially if you wait for because they usually do like combining packs and stuff like that, where it's like you get everything for like $70 or something, so you're actually saving a whole bunch of money. And they also usually give you like those tokens that automatically put you up to the standard level, and then you just have to get your light level up. So
it was $19.99, I think I paid in pounds for the Taken King version of Destiny, because it was cheaper for me to buy the game again with all the content than buy the content
separately.
Yeah. So I mean, if you hung off till that point and bought it then, I mean, Rise of Iron came out after that, but that would be kind of the best £20 you'd ever spent on games.
That is true.
It's like a lot of value in there.
Definitely. So before we get out of here, I actually have one last question that actually I figured would have been asked already, but I guess not. But I guess it's a good one to go out with. Where did so this is two-part. The first one is, where did the name Aaero for the game come from? Like the inspiration of that name. And then the second one is, why did you guys call yourselves MadFellows?
All right. MadFellows one first. That's easier to explain, I think. Because myself and Dan had been at big AAA companies for a long time, we'd find ourselves like kind of questioning some of the ways things were done and thinking, is this really the best way to do things? And it came to the point where we were about to sort of jump and leave the company, leave our jobs, and actually try and do it. And it kind of occurred to us that we were either crazy or we were onto something. But if we were mad, then both of us were. So that's kind of where that came from. Is just that we, if we were kind of deluding ourselves, then at least we both kind of felt the same about it. So that was where MadFellows came from. I think I was watching an episode of Futurama, and I think there is a load of there's like a group in there called MadFellows that are like these crazy people that live underground with tinfoil hats on. But they actually know. I think what they are worried about is actually the truth. So it's kind of a play on that. Like,
nice.
We were either going to crash and burn, or we were onto something.
Are you mad?
Mad. And Aaero, naming games is incredibly hard for me. It's the hardest part of it, because I mean, Aaero as a word, I've typed it about 1 million times, and you hear it all the time, and it's but trying to choose that word that's going to be like the thing you hear most for the next couple of years is really difficult. And with our first game, the mobile game, we had a bit of a problem with a game that had a similar name, so we had to change it halfway through, and that was a pain. So we had to choose this one ahead of time and get it trademarked early on, so we didn't have to change it. It was actually Dan that came up with Aaero. We were going through all sort of things to do with flight and that sort of thing, but one of the pivotal things about it is when indie games get bundled into lists on anything, on websites, on any sort of list of games, it's always alphabetical. So by sticking 2 A's at the start of something, it was a joke Dan made, like if we could come up with a name that had 2 A's at the start of it. And it kind of came from that. Like, and then it was a case of originally I had the A and the E, you know, that strange character that's on keyboards. I don't know what it's called, but it's an A and an E kind of squashed together.
Yeah.
I kind of thought we'd use that and it might stand out. But yeah, and then Dan mentioned putting another A on the front of it, so it'd be at the front of all the alphabetical lists. And that was that. The logo, loads of people read it originally as Aaero, so it was like 2 E's in the middle, but one of them was upside down for some reason.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of people that still type that.
That's funny.
Aaero. That's actually funny. Every time I hear it...
What a sneaky way of putting that on the top of the list is all I'm saying.
When you see indie games, what we didn't think of was people had already come across this idea, which is why there's loads of indie games that start with hashtags or numbers. They come ahead of us in alphabetical lists.
Wow.
That is great though. That's an awesome way. I do see, like, I didn't notice the whole upside down E thing until you pointed it out, and now I see it.
Now I'm always gonna see it.
Yeah, now I'm always gonna see it. I'm gonna, every time I like talk to someone, I'm gonna be like, oh yeah, did you hear about Aaero? I mean Aaero. No.
Aaero.
Every time I think about the name though, it makes me think about the Canadian chocolate bar. It's called Aaero. Oh my god.
well.
It's my favorite chocolate bar of like all times.
Wait, what? They got it in Canada, the UK, and in Australia? What?
Yeah, but they don't have it in the US.
Oh, wow, that's messed
Well,
up.
It is.
missing out. The Aaero bubbles as well.
I love them. Oh my
circles of
god.
chocolate. Oh, they're so good.
Yeah, Tim sent me some from Australia. Really cool.
What I really wanted to avoid was like one of those names that just kind of blend into everything else, like something Blaster and
Galaxy or
yeah, exactly. That's that sort of thing. I wanted it to be something a little bit different. That's why we kind of avoided space as well as like went with a desert sort of thing, and just to kind of make it stand out because our first game was very spaceship game. The spaceships looked like every other spaceship, and it was set where everything else was, and it didn't stand out at all. So I think the name and the different kind of lighter.
I like the whole desert steampunk kind of thing you have going. It makes it definitely a unique style and artistic look to it, and I know that's one thing I love about it.
It was just trying to be a bit different, so it didn't kind of blend into all the other space shooters.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is definitely unique.
Cool.
Yes.
All right, so Fox, do you have any other questions you would like to throw out there?
I don't have any more in particular, but I mean, we should talk about the DLC. The fact actually it just came out yesterday, right? On Xbox, but it's already been out on PlayStation and Steam.
Yeah, I made a mistake with one of the submission things being new to publishing, and it actually delayed the Xbox version because it was all over Christmas as well when people are taking holidays and it's all sorts of deadlines. And I put it out in a tweet. It was really late at night, and I just kind of put that I'd buggered something up with the publishing and it'd be late because we kind of just try to be honest with everything. Like we're genuinely trying to make games for people that like games and make it as good as possible. So we haven't really got any reason to, make anything appear to be what it, something else. So I thought that's going to be late, and it sucks because the majority of our players are on Xbox and I'm on Xbox, and and you as soon as you start to think how are we going to put this across so people aren't angry about it, and you think, well, we didn't do it deliberately, so I'm just going to tell people what happened.
I was super angry.
It was like a True Achievements article that quoted that tweet of I buggered up some publishing settings, and it's like, yeah, that looks strange when it's actually in an article.
Oh no.
That's
but
funny.
I mean, it's awesome that it's out there. I was looking forward to it. Enjoying it. And the DLC is out now. It's called Drum&Bass pack. And it had all the songs are from the same artist, right? 1000 Days Wasted.
Yep.
Yes. So that's 3 songs. It's $5, I believe.
$4.99 US, guys.
Really, really cool.
$3.99 British.
There you go.
Nice. The game is enhanced. It's awesome. I think everyone should play it. I'm definitely gonna promote it everywhere.
Definitely for everybody. The base game itself, if you don't actually have the base game, one, what are you doing with yourselves? But two, it does sell on Xbox for $14.99. You can buy, like Fox was saying, 1000 Days Wasted for $4.99. You can also buy the ship's solo skins for $9.99 or the $9.99. It's 99 cents, guys.
There you go.
I saw too many nines. There's a bunch of nines here. Like it's a whole bunch of nines.
Yes, 3 ships, 3 songs, awesome.
So, quick question then. If somebody buys the DLC, the 1000 Days Wasted, do they get these ship skins, or are these actually sold separately? Like, do you actually have to go buy these separately?
They're all separate. The easiest thing would have been to put them all in a bundle together, but we only put the one ship in there because we thought, not everyone's into that kind of customizing and choosing ships, and so we thought if we start adding ships, we want them to be completely optional.
Yes.
Okay.
that's why we put them all at the lowest price point and all individual. So if you want all the ships, you can get all the ships. But if you just want one, you don't like the others, you can just get one. It's just giving people as many options as possible. So we kept the price points as low as we possibly could.
Yeah, that would have been my other thing is like if they only like say one over the other, like if they only like Comet, then they don't have to have the other ones.
Yeah, there's no advantage to any of the ships. If people don't care what their ship looks like, then you don't have to buy one, and you're not at any sort of disadvantage either.
Yeah.
Because we looked into kind of ships that do different things, but the leaderboards are really important to us, and everyone having like a level playing field is important. So yeah.
I think it's awesome. They're cosmetic, and that everybody has the same.
Yeah, but people asked for different ships, and we put them in. But they're completely optional. Like.
Very awesome. Yeah. So a little bit of a description. Play 3 new drum and bass tracks. They also, for the standard base game, for anybody who would like to know, this game is a speed through, stunning, stylish, environmentalist tracing ribbon of light. Release the energy in the music, battle strange enemies, and fight epic boss battles, all driven by an incredible licensed soundtrack. So there's your information. True. Again, guys, make sure you guys go give MadFellows a follow on Twitter. They do have a Twitter page, so make sure you guys go check them out there and check out their game. Again, it's $14.99 for the base game, $4.99 for their new DLC, 1,000 Days Wasted, and then 99 cents for each of the skins. So you guys can go check all of that out and all that fun stuff because, hey, it's video games, guys. Who doesn't love video games? Who doesn't love video games?
And that new DLC, by the way, does have some more Chivos, so that's also really cool.
Definitely. But with that, I'd like to thank everybody for joining us, and big thank you to MadFellows, Paul, for joining us. It would have been awesome.
It's awesome.
Would have been awesome to have Dan here as well, but hey, we were happy to have you. Definitely, we are honored that you could grace our presence to talk about your game. Again, this is a game we have been talking about quite a bit about, so it was awesome to be able to have you join us and actually get to understand, because one of the things I like about video games is when you get to actually understand where a game came from, where the idea came from, how the developers really feel about the games, kind of makes you feel more closer to the game. So having you join us today, Paul, was absolutely outstanding, and thank you again for joining us.
Really appreciate the opportunity. It's been great talking to you.
For sure. Is there anything you want to say, Fox?
I love Aaero, and I'm glad that us here in Gaming Den, we've been talking about this game on and off for a while. So I think everybody, or all the viewers and everything, they know how much we enjoy the game. And I'm glad that this was our first interview on here, so it was awesome. Thank you for joining us, and I'm ready to get off here so I could go play the DLC again.
I will be trying to stream the DLC and all that kind of fun stuff here on Mixer during the week, so make sure you guys come back and check that out if you have not already bought the game. But again, what are you doing with yourself? What are you doing with yourself if you haven't? So go buy it. Have fun. Other than that, again, thank you everybody for joining us for the very first episode of the 2018 Gaming Den show, where you can find it here on Mixer and its new spot where you guys will be able to find the replay of it will be on Lady Fox Fire's YouTube channel. It will no longer be on the game or on Gamers Knows Best. So please, guys, if you want the replay on YouTube, go check it out there. And of course, if you're listening on YouTube, live shows will be on Mixer Fridays, 12 p.m. Eastern Time, where me and Fox will be having fun, hanging out, being gamers, because that is what we do. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Have an amazing weekend, and we are out.
Check out the description. Bye!